Welcome to Beyond Names. I'm Dr. Habīb. This is a space for spiritual seekers and soulful misfits, for the curious and the committed, for those grounded in a tradition, and for those who are not sure what they believe. Whether you call the divine Yahweh, Allah, Elohim, Brahman, Great Spirit, higher power, or you're still searching for language that fits, you are welcome here. Together, we'll explore the intersection of spirituality and daily life, the wisdom of many traditions, and the ways we return to our true selves, to our source, to the light that each of us carry within. I'm so glad you're here. Let's begin with introductions for our conversation partner in this episode. Yuval Ron is an award-winning composer and world music artist. Yuval and the Yuval Ron Ensemble are internationally renowned ethnic music and dance group that create unique original film scores, music for contemporary dance, for theater, museums, new media, as well as for medical and healing modalities. Yuval and the ensemble also do concerts, tours, and recordings. Yuval is the author of Divine Attunement, Music as a Path to Wisdom. Yuval has a recent album, Heal Me at 40 Hertz, which is choral music with biblical Hebrew prayers for brain health. Yuval also is offering 2 in-person retreats coming up in 2026. To learn more about Yuval and his work, please visit yuvalronmusic.com. So just to give you a preview of that, YUVALRON music, MUSIC.com. Thank you, Yuval, for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Habīb. Thank you for having me. This is a very special program. I love your focus and your special kind of approach to spirituality, the inclusivity, and I feel very much at home.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that, and it's echoed. Just looking at your website and seeing that you have. I'll bring this point up later, but you'll see Abrahamic faith, you see qigong, you see yoga. I love that too. So, but before we get into all that, why don't you, as a way of introducing yourself and letting us learn about who you are, could you just share a bit of your spiritual story with us?
Yes. I grew up to a secular family, and I didn't have anything spiritual that I remember from my childhood. But the first encounter with spirituality that was memorable and connected to where I am now was when I was 19. I studied composition privately with a teacher who was one of the great professors in the Tel Aviv University in Israel. And I was a private student. I studied music, composition with him, how to compose music. And he had several private students. He was a famous teacher. And he became, at a certain point, he started to become more and more religious. And he became an Orthodox Jew, and he joined a sect of Judaism that has a lot of Kabbalistic and mystical teaching. And one day he told me at the end of the music lesson, he said that he is going to put together a group of students that will come once a week to his house and study spirituality, mysticism, Kabbalah. And he said, but there's no pay. You pay me for the music classes, but no pay for the Kabbalah class. Yeah. And you can just come and whenever you want, and it's just open to you. And then I was curious. I didn't know anything about it. I was curious. I was 19. I knew nothing about spirituality. And I started studying with him. it grabbed me. It was really, really fascinating, and that was the first time that I was exposed or opened the door to one kind of a mystical tradition. And then I went to Boston to study music, and in Berklee College of Music. So I came, and I was studying film scoring, how to compose music for films, and I was studying jazz. And I one day in the street, I bumped into a rabbi who is from the same lineage as my music teacher in Israel, who opened the door to me. And it was half a year after I arrived. It was a magical, mystical meeting because I was walking in the street in Boston in a big avenue, and I didn't know anybody. I was just alone in a foreign city, in a foreign country, being a foreign student. I just came a few months before. I didn't have friends yet. And I looked up and I saw Hebrew letters on a building, and the Hebrew letters attracted my eye. And I walked towards that building, and I felt like power pulled me there. And when I reached to the stairs, there were stairs leading to the door. And when I walked up the stairs, suddenly the door opened as if, somebody was just timing it. And this young rabbi was standing there and asked me if I would like to come in. It was like as if it was orchestrated, And it turned out that he was from the same lineage, same as my one teacher from Israel. So I started studying with him Kabbalah. He was my second Kabbalah teacher. And at the same, and then in college, while majoring in music, we had to take also academic studies, and as electives, and I chose psychology, and I started studying psychology with a teacher who was a very it turned out that he was a mystic student and a meditation. He was a meditator. He was a Zen Buddhist, but nobody knew. He didn't present it, but he was teaching psychology, and he was teaching Zen Buddhism, and he was teaching Jungian psychology. Actually, I started with Jungian psychology, so I took a class in Jungian psychology, and I never heard about Jung before. Gustav Jung, and I studied that, and that led me to study a course in Buddhism and Zen Buddhism with the same teacher, and then I just fell in love with those teachings. So any course that he taught about any Asian psychology, his major was Asian religion and philosophy. So I studied in college Taoism, Zen Buddhism, meditation, and I continued to study Kabbalah. And then just one day in Boston, I was told that there's a Pakistani singer who Peter Gabriel brought to sing in the climax scene in The Passion of the Christ, the Last Temptation of Christ. There was a movie in the 1980s called The Last Temptation of Christ. And Peter Gabriel, who I admired back in the 80s as a great rock singer and composer, he did the music, and he was into world music. And in the crucifixion scene, or the walk with the cross to the crucifixion, that scene, that's very difficult scene of suffering and pain, there was an incredible chant of a voice, and that was the voice of a great Sufi master from the greatest Sufi singer of Pakistan, named Nusrat Ali Fateh Khan. And Peter Gabriel hired Nusrat to sing that incredible voice performance for that scene. And I'll never forget that. And when I heard that this singer who sang that on that soundtrack, because I was studying film music, so I knew everything about film music because that was my profession. I was starting to be a film composer, and that's what I ended up being. That's why I'm in Los Angeles. I've done a lot of work for film and TV. So I knew who sang where, what, in which movie, in each soundtrack. So I got a ticket for that concert, and I never heard about Sufism before. I never heard of anything about Sufism. And I went to the concert. It was in Symphony Hall. Nusrat was a huge man. He came with a group of musicians. They sat on the floor, and it was the first time ever that I heard Qawwali music, Sufi Qawwali music, which is a very extraordinary vocal chanting Sufi style. And I was a student of jazz. I was a jazz musician. I was a film composer. And when I heard Nusrat chant that Sufi Qawwali style, I thought that it was the most amazing, ecstatic vocal jazz I ever heard.
Yeah.
It was beyond any jazz vocals that I ever heard. And and I read in the program that this is a Sufi tradition, and I said, Sufi, what is Sufi? I want to know anything about this tradition that led to this incredible vocal chanting. So I started studying Sufism, and anything Sufi, anything that I could find about Sufism anywhere, and I ended up working with a great Sufi Turkish master named Omar Farouk Tekbilek from Turkey, and I've ended up producing his album called One Truth, and I produced another album that I composed called One, and I spent the last 35 years with him, and from him I went on to study with a Pakistani master named Sukhawat Ali Khan, who there's a connection with Nusrat Ali Fateh Khan. And so in my ensemble, there's a Qawwali singer named Sukhawat Ali Khan. It's one of my artists that is in my ensemble. So I continue to collaborate with Sufi masters from around the world over the years, and I became one of the major presenters of Sufi music in North America and in the world through my concert programs and recordings. At the same time, I continue my studies in Kabbalah and Hebrew mysticism. And in the last 15 years, I've been doing yoga for 25 years now. I've been a yogi for 25 years. And in the last 15 years, I really got deep into the medical and philosophical side of yoga, which has to do with Ayurvedic medicine. And I got into Chinese medicine and Qigong, and I've been studying and working with the doctors from those traditions. And so for me, this is all spirituality. It's all different wisdom traditions, spiritual, medical, energetic, medical system traditions that I found fascinating. So I've been a student and a teacher in about 5 different spiritual traditions that for me are all complement each other.
Yeah.
So that has been my complex and complicated path. It's multi-path path.
Is what?
It's a multi-path path.
Multi-path path. Yes. And I love it. I love that. I love that you have fully embraced the multi-path aspect of your path. And I think that it's so important in our time that we're living in to be open to where we are led. Like the experience when you felt as if you were drawn to the Hebrew letters on the building and you were drawn up the the steps. It's so important to trust our own hearts and to trust what is put in our hearts. And so thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that very much. And it's one of the things that I really noticed. I mentioned this earlier when I saw your website. I was like, oh my goodness, here's Abrahamic faiths mentioned, and here's Qigong mentioned, and here's Ayurveda mentioned, and here's talking about the brain health. So it's like it's the intersection of spirituality and the body and physical health, but also wisdom. You use the word wisdom traditions, and so anyway, I just want to appreciate what you're bringing to the table. So, given all of that, and given this diversity of your own experience and your own study, but also your own work, can you tell me a little bit about maybe some of your favorite projects, past projects
Mhm.
that you've done as a composer, teacher, student, musician, performer, artist?
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, there are so many projects. I mean, there's recent project that I've done called Heal Me at 40 Hertz, which is um, there's a certain brain sound therapy called 40 Hertz, and this is really, really cutting edge, newest thing. I'm starting to teach a 4-part course on September 24th called Change Your Brain with Sound, and this has to do with that. Um, 40 hertz sound therapy was discovered in MIT and developed in MIT in recent years, and they used a tone which is called 40 hertz. It's 40 cycles a second. It's like 40 pulsation a second. That's what 40 hertz is, just 40 pulsation a second. It's very fast, and you can imagine in 1 second 40 pulses for 40 knocks, like you knock on a door, but 40 times a second. You don't hear it like knocks on the door, you hear it like a one tone, because our brain cannot hear such a fast pulsation. We just hear a tone, and it's a low tone, and it's called 40 hertz. Now, the researchers just used the tone in order to clear the pathways from plaque and improve memory, and it improves recovery from brain trauma because it increases blood flow in the brain and it helps focus and concentration. Now, the people that are testing it and developing it and using it now in limited places, they just use the tone. And there's two doctors named Dr. Richard Gold and Dr. Sanjay Manchanta who approached me and said, if we could find music that delivers that tone, people would enjoy more listening to it an hour a day, and we'll have more compliance. And I said, what means compliance? He said, oh, compliance is very important in medicine because you can give people the medicine, but they don't take it.
Yes.
So what's good in having the medicine? If people forget to take it, if it's difficult for people to take it, if it's complicated for people to take it, they may not take it. And the fact that you have the medicine or the remedy, it's good for nothing if people don't take it. That's compliance. And they said if you can deliver the 40 hertz tone with beautiful music and relax the listener, which we're going to promote more healing, that would be wonderful. And so I've been engaged to create the first catalog in human history of music in 40 hertz in different styles. Jazz in 40 hertz, classical music in 40 hertz, guitar music in 40 hertz, world music in 40 hertz, Indian music, Persian music, all in 40 hertz. And one of my favorite albums in 40 hertz is the a cappella choir. So they asked me to write a cappella choir music. And I thought, okay, it's for healing and I need to find words for the choir. So I looked in the Hebrew Bible for any prayer, any words in the Hebrew Bible that has to do with healing. Asking for healing, praying for healing, anything that has to do with the word healing in Hebrew, which means refuah or Raphael, the angel Raphael, that's the word for healing in Hebrew. The angel Raphael is the healing angel. He's the healing angel because in Hebrew the word refuah, which means medicine, comes from the word Raphael. So I looked and I found few prayers in the Hebrew Bible in Hebrew, and I composed music to those Hebrew biblical healing prayers in the key of 40 hertz. So it delivers the tone of 40 hertz within the music. And this album came out as Heal Me at 40 Hertz. And it's just so beautiful to hear this choir from Brigham Young University. It's one of the best choirs in the country to sing contemporary music. They are incredible. They're out of Utah, Brigham Young University singers. They are a professional singing group. They record albums, they tour, and they were so devotional. The students, when I talked to them, I went up there and I talked to them about the meaning of the words and really stand behind each word, to express it with their hearts. And they really listened. They really wanted to give it all. and they were so good professionally, but also they are young and they are eager. I told the producers, this is better than any of the most professional singer groups that I can hire, singers for hire, the people who sing for Disney and for DreamWorks and all the greatest singers in Los Angeles that I work with for movies.
Yeah.
If I would hire 40 of them and bring them in and have them sing it, it's going to be technically perfectly, but it would not have the heart that students at Brigham Young University put it into the music. So that's one of my favorite album. There's another album called 4 Divine States of Mind, which is based on Buddhism, on 4 teachings of Buddhism that are called the 4 states, divine states of mind, higher virtues. So it's loving kindness, compassion, vicarious joy, and equanimity. And I was hired to compose music that invoke each one of those 4 higher virtues. Buddhist monks meditate on it. Their job is to sit and meditate and with their mind to reach those states of loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity in their mind. And I received a commission to invoke these through music, so people that may not be able to sit and meditate like a Tibetan monk or a Buddhist monk could feel that and have these vibrations and that energy invoke in them through the music. And that was a creative project and challenging, especially when it came to equanimity. How do you invoke equanimity through music? Equanimity is the sense that all things are equal. All things in the creation are equal. Everything is equal. Your best day and your worst day are equal. Day and night are equal. Men, women, feminine energy, masculine energy, the tall person, short person. It doesn't mean that they are all the same. Each one is different, but they're all equal from the point of view of creation, from the divine creation. All things are equal. And so how do you invoke this in music? It was a very difficult challenge. I can invoke joy with music very easily. I can invoke compassion in music. I can invoke love and kindness in music. But equanimity was very difficult for me. It was very difficult. And I find a way to invoke it musically. And this is a beautiful album. It's one of my most favorite albums. And it's called 4 Divine States of Mind. You can find it anywhere.
Okay.
So these are two from many, many, many projects that are close to my heart.
Well, I would love to hear, and I'm sure that the audience for the podcast would love to hear.
Do you want me to play a few minutes from this album?
Please do.
4 Divine States of Mind album trailer. Can you hear the bell, the gong?
Yes.
So as you could see, this was a very ambitious project with many top-notch master musicians from around the whole world. It was a very four different lead female singers. One of them, Estrella Morente, is the number one flamenco gypsy singer in the world from Granada, Spain, and Deva Premal, the premier kirtan singer, recorded from Australia. It was recorded in India. It was recorded in Los Angeles, all over the world, and you got a sense for the variety of sounds also. So if I may, I'll share just a little bit about the choir, the Heal Me at 40 Hertz. Let me find.
Please, yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you to do that next, actually.
Yeah. Okay. So let me
spoke,
show
you
you.
spoke so highly of the choir.
Yeah, I would love you to get a sense for that. This is a different kind of video. It's show the behind the scene, the behind the scenes. So I think it's let's see, heal me at 40 hertz. Heal me at 40 hertz. Album trailer. So, okay, I think this is the release party. Or is the here? This is the album trailer. So this is 6 minutes long. I'll just show you the first 2 or 3 minutes, if I may. Okay.
Yes, please.
My name is Yuval Ron. I'm a composer visiting here at Brigham Young University for recording a world premiere piece that I composed to work with sound therapy called 40 Hertz. And that tone, that vibration of 40 Hertz have been shown to improve cognition in the brain, to clear the memory pathways from plaque, and improving concentration and healing from brain trauma, all kinds of health benefits. This was so beautiful. It's the first time I ever heard it. My friends, I must tell you, this is a very moving moment for me. This is the very first time that I heard anybody sing this. This is the world premiere moment for me to hear it. And just the first chord, the first measure, when you start singing, I felt my heart was just vibrating. And the way you sang it, all the dynamics and the feeling is just the way I envisioned it. I'll stop here because the rest, showing more of the rehearsal process and kind of a master class. But you got the feeling for this work.
I got a taste of it. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah. So I wondered if you would talk a bit about, given your book, Divine Attunement, and it's the title, Music as a Path to Wisdom, or subtitle, I should say, Music as a Path to Wisdom. In your experience of these many different traditions, could you just talk to that idea of music as a path, as a spiritual path,
Mm.
and as a spiritual
Yes.
practice, the intersection of spirituality and music. And
Yeah. I found myself walking on this path where all I wanted to be is a musician, and I wasn't aware of any spirituality. And I
yeah,
wasn't aware that music is spirituality. Wasn't aware that improvising music, playing jazz, is a spiritual practice. I wasn't aware of it. I thought about it just as a technique when I was young. It's about technique, it's about knowledge and technique. Then through doing it, I discovered that composing music, improvising music, making music from the heart is not, it's impossible to do all the time the same. If it was only technique and knowledge, you could do it this on the same level any day, any time, because you have the knowledge and you have the technique. But I found out that it's a lot more sneaky and tricky than that, and there's a mysterious element to it, and sometimes it's graceful, and sometimes it's blessed, and sometimes it's not.
yeah,
And then I realized that there's a sacred and spiritual, mysterious element of channeling and channeling that energy, that is another kind of art and another kind of wisdom practice of becoming an instrument where you are the musician is the instrument for a higher voice, for a mysterious voice.
mm,
Um, and we can call it in all kinds of names. And I found that other master musicians, many great musicians, from John Coltrane to many of the masters from India and from the Middle East and Asia, and Carlos Santana is one example. There's many musicians who discovered that, like
mm,
myself. They discovered that there's another element, that there's something behind all things, and they've reached spirituality through music, and they start searching for answers, searching for the truth, searching for wisdom. So that's why the subtitle of my book is Music as a Path to Wisdom, because it's music and making music that led me and led
mm,
many others
mm,
to that place of exploring spirituality, exploring spirit, exploring the hidden, unseen energy that is involved, and studying and learning different wisdom traditions from around the world. That has been my case. So that's what I'm talking about.
yeah.
It's my experience.
Like the terms that stood out to me from what you just said was you mentioned composing from the heart or playing from the heart. So the obvious the heart aspect of it, the mystery aspect of it,
Yeah.
and then this energy that there's some aspect of being a in a flow for
Mm-hmm.
uh, you use the term energy. So one of the things that I've thought in the past that I find especially intriguing is I have a friend who's not, I think she might call herself spiritual but not religious, or maybe,
Yeah, sure.
uh,
I heard that phrase before.
yeah, she definitely is not in a particular tradition.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Um, and and she's very engaged in um, awareness of light and sound and vibrational energy. And I said, you may not be engaged in a tradition, but why do you think Muslims and Sufis chant? You know, it's because we believe that the recitation we're doing is not just words with meaning, it's that there is a light and a sound and a vibrational energy that accompanies that sound.
Right. Right. Right.
So
Indeed.
I find this music as a great unifier. Uh,
Yes. Yeah, yeah, music is a great unifier, and I'm lucky that I'm a musician because I know and I've seen how music can unify and bring people together. Because it's nonverbal and because it's vibration, it's an energy that goes through the air and work not on the intellectual path, but it works on the emotional path. And there's a lot in there. There's a lot of scientific information about how music works and why our brains react a certain way to music. One of the things that I studied in Berklee College of Music is a field called psychoacoustics, which is the psychology of sound. Why we all consider certain sounds as scary or pleasing or soothing, and that's how film music works, and that's how healing music works, is through that phenomena of psychoacoustic, that particular sounds combinations trigger certain things in the human brain beyond cultural divides. So you could have things that are in a certain culture, certain music is certain music in the Middle East is considered good music for weddings, and it's romantic music. And in the West, that music is considered sad music, melancholic music. That's a cultural boundary. That's a cultural use of music. So there's things that are culturally different, and there's things that are universal. In music, there's certain sounds that all people, regardless of cultures, react in the same way to those. And those are the things that are important to use when you write film music, when you use music for healing. Because when you write music for a film, you don't know if the film is going to be shown in Turkey or in Chechnya or in Japan or in Bulgaria or in Germany. The music has to work. The movie has to work.
Yeah.
You can't say, oh, only audience in Europe cried in that scene, but in Asia they didn't cry in that scene. What's wrong with the music? Why did the music didn't make the audience in Asia cry? You cannot afford to get to that. You have to have music that would work on all human beings. The same thing with sound healing. You cannot say, oh, this sound healing practice will work only in Asia, but not going to work in Europe or in Africa. No, it has to work everywhere. So there's certain things in psychoacoustics that are universal, and there's certain things that are cultural. When it comes to sound healing and film music, we're interested mostly in the things that are beyond cultures, that are universal. And so this is part of the magic of music as a universal language. There is a big part, not absolute situation, but there are a lot of musical elements that are universally understood the same. Like a smile, for example. There's certain body language that all over the planet, a smile is unarming in any culture on this earth. But there's certain movement in your hands that in one culture would be offending, and another culture on this earth would be disarming. So you need to know.
Yes.
You need to know. There's some body language that would be misunderstood in one culture versus another culture. But there's certain things that are universal, like a smile. Same thing with music. There's certain things in music that are universal. And those are the things that are studied in the psychoacoustic field, the psychology of sound. Yeah.
So you've studied psychoacoustics, you've studied, you mentioned psychology earlier, but you started out studying composition. You've also studied Buddhism, Kabbalah, so mysticism in the Jewish tradition, Sufism. So given all of that, could you tell us, if you were going to say what does spirituality mean to you, given your vast experience and knowledge, education, exposure to so many different cultures, what does spirituality mean to you?
It's a exploration of energies that are not seen, that you cannot see. So it's a whole world. It's a whole matrix of energies and vibrations that we cannot see, but it's affecting us and the whole cosmos. And studying it, describing it, working with it, dancing with it, feeling it, searching for it, utilizing it, co-creating with it, co-improvising with it, is the practice of spirituality for me. And there's, of course, many ways to do that. There's not one spirituality, but all the spiritual paths are trying to do the same thing through different modalities. So you can dance with the spirit, and you can play with the spirit, and you can cook with the spirit, and you can garden with the spirit, and you can make love with the spirit. Like in conjunction with, or in collaboration with, or in whatever you would call it. It's like sailing. You never sail alone. You sail with the wind. You work with the wind. So that's one example. You don't see the wind, but you feel the wind. And if you go sailing and you ignore the wind, you're doomed. And so you have to work with the wind. You need to kind of give and take and negotiate. You need to negotiate with the wind, and you need to compromise with the wind in order to get back to the port. If the wind blowing this way from the port and you want to go back home to the port, you just can't do that. You have to do a zigzag, because the wind is pushing this way, and you need to go this way, like away from the port, and then this way. You need to do a zigzag in order to work your way with that wind in order to get to where you want. So you need to work with that certain ways. And the same thing is in all the spiritual path. It's just that the wind, the mysterious element, is not as obvious as a wind on the ocean when it comes to spirituality. The great mystery, the quote-unquote wind, or the element we don't see, is even more mysterious than the wind. So there's a saying by Jalaluddin Rumi, the great Sufi master, which I always tell my students. Rumi said, there are 4 powers, right? We know: earth, air, wind, fire, and water. But Rumi says these are the slaves. Who is the master? So look, in other words, look beyond the elements. And that's the difference, it's different between certain kind of spirituality path. There's some spirituality path that see the elements in nature as the end, meaning the deepest thing. The deepest thing, there's the god of the earth, and the god of the wind, and the god of the water, and the goddess of the fire, and it's all a play between those goddesses. The Abrahamic traditions introduced, Judaism as the first monotheistic religion, introduced the thought, the idea that Abraham introduced. That's why it's called the Abrahamic faith. Abraham introduced another way to look at it, as Abraham suspected that there's something behind the moon and the sun. There's a beautiful story about that. There's a Sufi story and there's a Jewish story, both about the same experience, that Abraham thought that the source of life is from the sun, and then he thought that the source of light and life is from the moon. But he realized that the sun goes down at night to the ocean, to the sea. There's no sun, so how can it be the source of life? But then he saw the moon rising, and he thought, the source of light is the moon. But at the end of the night, he was worshipping the moon all night, and at the end of the night, the moon disappeared. And the sun came in, and then he realized that the source of light is not outside of him. The source of light is on the inside. That what we see, the sun, the moon, the fire, the water, the earth, the air, the wind, what we can feel, what we can touch and see, the things we can grab with our five senses and with our thoughts are just the exterior manifestation of something deeper and more mysterious and more hidden that is beyond our five senses and beyond our thoughts and words. He sensed that. And that was the beginning of the Abrahamic traditions. And so Jalaluddin Rumi in the 13th century referred to that. He said, who's behind fire, water, earth, and wind? Who's behind it? So in spirituality, we're studying the relationship with the five elements, with the four elements plus ether. Many of the wisdom traditions that I teach and that I studied deal with balancing and invoking those five energies. So you work with that in spirituality, you work with that. But there's still another realm that beyond the senses, beyond our senses. And that is the greatest mystery. That is even harder to work with. And because it's more mysterious, it's more hidden. And so it's very difficult because we don't have the tools, we don't have the words to describe it, we don't have the thoughts to form a theory or a description or a mode of operation. If you get to the depth of it, you really have to agree with the greatest mystics, the greatest of all, have immediately from the get-go tell you, if you can describe it, it's not it. If you can, if you can, any human description, you missed. You already missed before you started. So don't even try. Don't even try to describe it or to form anything. So I subscribe to this school. Of spirituality that it's beyond our thoughts. But I say to my students, yes, it's beyond our thoughts, it's beyond our words, but we can feel it. Not with our five senses, but we can feel it with other senses, like intuitive, like with intuition, it's kind of etheric, like feeling ether. It's not like feeling fire. It's not like feeling water. It's not like feeling wind and earth. It's like feeling ether. You can sense there's ether in the room. You can sense it. You can't grab it. You can't see it. But you can sense that, if you're really, 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 really sensitive. And so that is the only path that I see, is to try to feel it, to intuit it, to move with it based on intuition, based on this hidden sense, like a sixth sense. And music and movement, I find, are one of the best ways to do it, because of the quality of flow and the quality that it's non-verbal and it's not dogmatic. So it's appropriate formats, movement and sound. So that's what I teach. I teach sound healing and sacred sound, and with a little bit of sacred movement involved, in order to try to feel the flow and to synchronize with that flow, with that mysterious element. The first chapter in my book is called The Golden Thread. The Golden Thread. That's the first chapter in the book. And that refers to the golden thread. It's a name, it's a mystical name to when you synchronize with the great mystery and it flows through you, that thing that goes through you, you can call it an inner voice, you can call it an inspiration, you can call it the muse, you can call it divine inspiration, you can call it whatever. But one of the names for it is golden thread. Golden thread that goes through you, you know. And so I dedicated the first chapter of the book to that concept. Yeah.
So for someone, this is a two-part question or request. For someone who is not necessarily in the tradition or doesn't identify with the tradition, what would you recommend for someone who wants to listen to music and as a way to experience or begin or open to experience or even experiment? When I first started with when I first heard of the word spirituality, I was like, well, what is it that I'm going to approach this like an experiment. So for somebody who's going to experiment with the experience of spirituality and music, but they're not grounded in a tradition, what might you recommend that they do as a first step? And
Well,
then,
yeah.
and then
I
for
would
someone who is immersed in a tradition, but not necessarily coming through the door of music, what might you recommend they do? So,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I would recommend several different paths, and people could choose what they gravitate to. One is to learn to play an instrument, or to learn to sing, or to sing in a choir, to sing in a community choir, to play in a community band, to play music. This is the first step, if you can, and if you are drawn to playing music, singing, even if you're not a singer, to sing in a community orchestra. This is one doorway to reach and to sense the spirit, or to go into a spiritual path, is to make music. That's number one. The same thing with movement, to make movement, to learn to dance any form of dance, and slowly to go from learning a form of dance or learning a form of music to get to be able to improvise or to dance freestyle or to improvise freestyle. Because when you go freestyle, you're more vulnerable. You're not protected by the format that already you practice a million times and do the same thing. When you go to a freestyle improvisation, you're more vulnerable and you're more dependent on intuition and listening to the flow, the golden thread. You have more opportunity to feel it. So those are two paths. Another path is yoga. That's another kind of movement, and it has a spiritual to it. You know, to study yoga with a teacher who is not teaching it like an aerobics or as condition, or you know, it has to be a teacher who is spiritual, the teacher who expands on the stretching. So yoga is not just stretching. Yoga is a spiritual path. You don't have to be a Hindu. You don't need to believe in Hinduism. You don't need to subscribe to anything, but you can study yoga with a teacher who's sensitive and spiritual, and that will give you an experience. To learn to meditate, to take a meditation class, that's another entry step. Joining a drum circle, a community drum circle, that every Sunday afternoon plays on the beach. Just grab a drum and go there and just sit in the back and just bang your drum, even if you don't know anything. Just try to be together. Try to join the community through sound, without thinking, without talking. And after a while, it's going to affect you. Those are the paths that I know. Notice that none of them included reading books or going to lectures. And I love books.
Yeah.
I love books. But Rumi said, this is the opening of my book, the first page of my book. There's a quote from Rumi, and it says, before you go into the library, before you enter a library, go and learn a music instrument. Jalaluddin Rumi said that in the 13th century.
Yeah.
So some people can enter spirituality through the intellect. It's possible.
Yeah.
You could enter spirituality through reading books, but the experiential, on your body, embodied experience, non-verbal experience, I found to be a lot deeper and more direct.
Yeah.
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 After that, as Rumi said, after that, you can read about it. Read what other people wrote about it. That can be enriching and interesting, but it's not the path.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's impressions of other people's path.
I mentioned earlier the experiment when I first was exposed to the idea of spirituality, and I didn't even know what the term meant. And I was exposed to Sufism. I was like, well, I'm going to try this chant, and I I didn't want to know what I was saying. I did not want to know a translation. I just was like, okay, give me your best guess of how this is supposed to sound, and I'm going to try. And I just want to feel what I feel. And what I found was that chanting and the sound of the voice, that there was a resonance that I experienced in my body, and I experienced that the sound affected what I was doing with my voice, affected my heart, and and
Yeah.
that just it. And so since then, I've always been a one to encourage other people to use their voice, however works for them in their tradition or no tradition, um,
Right. Right. Yeah.
and to listen for the great mystery in their own voice.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is beautiful, and that's what I offer, through the University of Sufism and other universities that I teach in, is I have a curriculum, I have a course for sacred healing sounds, which is a curriculum for people who are not musicians and people who are not singers.
yeah,
Of course, there's professional musicians and singers that come to my courses, but they are not the majority. The majority of the people are non-musicians, and the course is designed for people who are not musicians to discover that what you discover, that through the use of your voice you can connect to a great mystery, and you can heal many things within yourself with your voice, and then you can learn how to use it with others. So it's a great portal, because anybody can do it. Anybody who has breath, anybody who could breathe can
yeah,
do this curriculum.
yeah,
And it's wonderful. And there's always musicians in my students. There's always, 10% of the people are musicians because they're very interested in it. But 90% of the people are not musicians. And it's designed for them and it's effective for them. The musicians are flying, and they ask me all kinds of questions, and I give them that extra stuff for musicians only, but the curriculum is designed for regular people.
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for a great conversation about the intersection of spirituality and sound, the intersection of spirituality and brain health, and so much more. So, for people, you mentioned that you're having two retreats coming up in 2026. For people who want to reach out to you to learn more about your retreats, they can visit your website, which is
Right.
Yuval, Yuval ronmusic.com.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, there's one retreat in the Shivananda ashram in the Bahamas in April, focusing on the wisdom traditions of Ayurveda and Nada Yoga, the yoga of sound, and the doshas of Ayurvedic medicine and chanting. That's
Mhm.
in April. And in October 2026, there's a 5 days retreat on the three Abrahamic faiths, the sacred healing chants of Sufism, Kabbalah, and plain chant of Christianity. And it's going to be in the Basque country on the border between Spain and France in the Pyrenees mountain. It's a beautiful farmland, very, very peaceful and beautiful, great food. And we're going to be chanting all day and all night and doing some sacred movement. It's going to be a dream. That's October 2026. And the information is on my website, yuvalronmusic.com.
Thank you. Sounds beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for
Thank
being
you,
here.
Dr.
Thank
Habīb.
you,
Thank you.
all
Great
of
to
our
talk to
listeners,
you.
for joining us on Beyond Names. Before we go, briefly just take one breath and reflect for just a moment on anything that might stay with you from this conversation with Yuval Ron. May something you heard today help you reconnect with the light in your own heart. May you grow in compassion, clarity, and courage. May you find your way again and again back home to yourself, back home to the divine, however you name it. If today's conversation spoke to you, please like, share, and comment. To make an appointment with me, please visit habibburger.com, HABIBBOERGER.com. Until next time, may you be light, may you carry light, may you consciously participate in growing your light, and may you share your light. Peace be with you.